The people that we see that are most successful are people where someone wants to be learning it from this person. It's not just that they want to learn gardening or React. They want to learn it from this person who they've been following for a while. You need to sort of figure this. You need to get like the first 50 people who want to learn from you. And then hopefully if your content's good, they'll tell other people and then it becomes sort of word of mouth. I think oftentimes people get stuck trying to come up with some perfectly tailored niche. I'm a programmer. I was also raised Quaker. I could teach programming for Quakers, but there's 50,000 Quakers. I probably shouldn't do that. But if it was able to get me to 10 or if it could expand past that, that might be fine. So it's just it's finding that differentiator for your first couple dozen students.
You're listening to Ecomonics, a Debutify podcast, your resource for one-of-a-kind insights into the world of e-commerce and business in the modern age. This is Joseph. I'll be presenting a wealth of industry knowledge from interviews with successful business people and our own state-of-the-art research. Your time is valuable, so let's go. Teachable.com is one of the educational platforms we learned about in recent weeks. Without trying, we ended up having a whole run of them. So capping off the unofficial Education Week is Chief Technical Officer Noah Pryor. In this episode, we compare the Teachable platform to the other platforms we looked at, Skillshare and Udemy, and find that Teachable prioritizes the teacher first and foremost, and keeps their own presence as a platform to a minimum. As always, I recommend listening to the show in order. A heavy ask, but assuming you have and you've gotten to this point, I think you'll walk away from today's episode with a much clearer idea of where you want to teach and where you want to learn. Noah Pryor, it is good to have you here on Ecomonics. How you doing today? How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty well. Excited to sort of get into 2021, ramping back up into work. Excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about this year. I'm good. Last year was hard, but it was transformative. I managed to find this new job position, managed to move into a new place. So it was a silver lining year for me. And I'm definitely looking forward to a better 2021 overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for asking that. Now, first question I got to hit you with. Same question I get to everybody. It's the most important one, debatably, but feel free to, if anybody takes an opposite position on that, podcast at Debutify.com. So who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, I'm Noah Pryor. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at a company called Teachable. We're in the sort of online education e-commerce space. We help sort of individuals monetize their expertise either through online courses or coaching I suppose.
Total coincidence, but for our listeners who've been listening in order, I guess this is unofficially Education Week because the previous guest was knowledgeable on Skillshare. Then the one before that was a teacher on Udemy. So we were just I don't know how it happened. We all just wanted to get to all of the educational sector all in one go. This being an introduction of your company to our audience. It's a common question, but it's fair to ask. So what is the overall mission of Teachable? I know you kind of just gave us the very brief seed of it, but what is Teachable's goal? What do you want to accomplish in the long run and the short term?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, pithy phrase is helping creators monetize their expertise, but really we want to let people who have something they're passionate about, something they're good at, make a living off of teaching it to other people. So we're not really focused on the K through 12 market or universities or anything like that. We have a couple, but just kind of coincidentally, it's not something we aim for. It's really mostly sort of individuals and maybe businesses built around individuals who have something they're really passionate about, be it creator teaches people how to deal with copper deficiencies in your miniature goats, and that goes really well. So it can be very niche. Some people, teach how to program React, or there's a lot of, drop shipping courses and stuff like that as well. But it really runs the gamut.
One part of it I'd like to focus on specific is how a platform like this begins to build trust and credibility. I guess for both its users and its creators, because when it first starts up, I know from the history of the internet, there's, especially when we're talking to a lot of the people in the drop shipping space, there was that first wave of internet gurus who had all the answers and they were walking around in their mansions, and that burned a lot of people on it. And that trust has taken a long time to regain. So what was it like for you guys?
Yeah, so we really sort of, I guess, initially kind of positioned ourselves as being instructor or teacher first. I think we go with creator now as sort of the new lingo, but really, and a lot of our initial momentum actually came out of sort of frustrations with people teaching on Udemy. Udemy is a great platform. Lots of our customers still use it as well. But with sort of marketplaces, you end up classically, and this happened, with arguably eBay and every other marketplace too, you end up in a situation where once you get big enough, you don't really care about the creators, the sellers anymore, like because you're like, hey, we've got 10 million people with their credit cards entered. We're going to put your stuff in front of it. What are you going to do? You're going to come and you're going to use us. So like you can't contact your students to recommend another course to them. It's you lose control over your pricing and sort of maybe it's hard to export your content and stuff like that. So we sort of always from the beginning like you can export. They're your students. They're not our students. Is sort of our philosophy. So we don't market to the
I see.
students directly. That was another sort of big thing that would really frustrate people is you would sign somebody up for your Photoshop course, like intro to Photoshop, and then you'd get like a bunch of their students would all get like 95% off coupons for other Photoshop courses rather than your advanced Photoshop course, which is rough as a creator.
Yeah, and I guess it's more of a lateral move because now they're just learning courses with equivalent skill sets rather than moving forward and progressing to like a higher degree of expertise.
Yeah, it's harder to like build up on like a foundation of knowledge if you don't really have any reason to think that somebody's going to take more than one of your courses. So we've always, we've always been able to like export all of your content, export all of your students. We take sort of a smaller fee structure and have worked over time to like try to reduce the amount of time we're holding the money. When we were starting, we ended up having to hold people's earnings for like 45 days to support a 30-day refund policy and so forth. And that's terrible. Nobody wants to wait 45 days to get paid. So now that's like 2 or 3 days, and it's sort of a much closer system. So there's, I guess, primarily, other than being sort of transparent to our customers, we try to make it so you don't have to trust us as much. Like, trust that, we're going to charge the right amount of money and we're not going to lose your content. But, like, if you wanted to take your business elsewhere, you would be able to feel like it's sort of a nicer philosophy. You can either try to, like, build retention by making it really hard for people to leave you or making it really easy for people to get data in and out so that, you can use Teachable as your central hub connected with a bunch of other services. And that also means that, if you want to leave, you can.
So there's a thread that opened up there, and actually, one thing I'd like to tell you too. I might have mentioned this in an email that I sent you some time ago about how when I was brought on to this company, my boss and mentor Ricky Hayes, he has a course on Teachable. It's Ecom Lifestyle University, and he took me through it because he needed me to understand how this how this all works so that I can conduct these conversations. And when you're saying about how you guys take a back seat and let the creators be put first versus how I think Udemy is brand focused first. So I think there are strengths and weaknesses to both sides. So one of them is the overall trustworthiness of the institution of Udemy. You do expect that there is an overall average of quality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the platform and the community that's sprung up over it. Whereas I think what happens here, and of course this is your business, you can tell me if I'm way off, but I think that the credibility does fall on the individual creators more prominently because they're the ones that are putting themselves first. I'm not going to teachable.com/here's my course. I'm going to here's my course.com/teachable.
That's completely correct. It's much more sort of your credibility and less Teachables. I would guess probably half to 2/3 of the students that use Teachable or take courses on Teachable are not aware that it's a Teachable platform. Like you'll see our domain on sort of like the checkout and login pages, but you can completely white label everything. We're much more in the back seat. We are experimenting now with like Teachable Discover and sort of ways of having an opt-in centralized marketplace to sort of promote people, but then the promotions take you back to the individual schools pages. You don't like consume it within Discover, and that's still pretty nascent because that's the other big benefit you get from a Udemy and so forth is that the audience is already there. You don't have to bring your own audience.
It does sound like it does put you guys in a fun scenario that's a bit of a puzzle to figure out because you want to put the creators first and let them do the promotion, but you also have your own content. I found your YouTube page, I found your Instagram, and so I guess people are funneled in different ways. If they find you, then they're funneled towards the creators. But if they find the creators, I'm not sure if they're funneled towards Teachable in any meaningful way because they're kind of like they're sticking with the creator. So it sounds to me like the endpoint is always going to be the creator. And if you find a way to entice people to come to join the platform, then they can look around and see what they can find, which is kind of like what I was trying to do too. I was trying to like, okay, how if I'm a student here, how am I going to look for what's interesting to me on there? And podcasting in specific is kind of like what frame of reference I was going by.
Yeah, there's not great discovery right now. It's pretty hard if you find one podcasting course you like to find another one by a unrelated instructor by virtue of it being unteachable, which is helps prevent like brand dilution, but also means you have to do sort of more work. So like one thing we've talked about and are like looking into doing is ways to sort of help people like cross promote their courses between different schools. So like maybe you as a podcast teacher know another good podcast teacher or somebody who's like a great course on OBS or something like that, the like audio tool used for podcasting, and have a way to sort of like cross promote and have like their course show up on your school and vice versa in exchange for like a revenue share. So then it's not quite as much just like anyone else who put anything with Photoshop in the name on Udemy, but more sort of like blessed from the creator, since presumably that's where like the trust is with the purchaser, with the student is with the creator, and not so much with Teachable.
And by the way, I'm sorry if, if that sounded like a criticism whatsoever. It
No,
was just
not at all.
my observance
Yeah.
of like what, yeah, because everyone's in different positions and are facing different challenges. So from your YouTube page, there's a lot of areas where people can market their courses. There's LinkedIn, Meetup, so various social medias, Reddit, forums. There's a couple that, even with all of the people that I've talked to so far, they've completely eluded my radar. So can you, is there anything you can do to tell us about inbound SlideShare, or it's also referred to as like potential discount websites? I really don't know anything about those.
I mean, inbound SlideShare I've seen more as just kind of just like one form of content marketing, more or less. It's similar to you might do a Forbes post or something like that, but just sort of creating with I guess the benefit that it's more easily reshareable. Often nobody wants to make their own slides, so you publish something on SlideShare, and then somebody will like incorporate some of that into their deck internally or use it as a reference. I'm not sure on the latter one you're talking about. Sorry, I'm a couple
Okay, no
YouTube
worries.
videos back on our channel.
Yeah, no worries. For courses where there's a lot of competition, how does someone find a way to distinguish themselves among other teachers?
The people that we see that are most successful are people where someone wants to be learning it from this person. It's not just that they want to learn gardening or React. They want to learn it from this person who they've been following for a while. Sometimes that's because it's a like I don't know, maybe it's they have an identity they agree with. So we have like a Black Business School and a couple others that are focused on sort of like building wealth in Black communities, which is
Mhm.
I don't know how different the content is than other sort of financial literacy things, but it's tailored to sort of a specific demographic, so that can work. Or people who are teaching sort of programming from like specific non-traditional backgrounds, like you're coming from being an analyst or sales and so forth. But really, like it's just you need to sort of figure this. You need to get like the first like 50 people who want to learn from you, and then hopefully, if your content's good, they'll tell other people, and then it becomes sort of word of mouth relatively quickly. Like you don't need to. I think oftentimes people get stuck trying to come up with some like perfectly tailored niche. Like, I'm a programmer. I was also raised Quaker. I could teach like programming for Quakers, but there's like 50,000 Quakers. I like probably shouldn't do that. But like if it was able to get me to like 10 or 15 people and then I could expand past that, that might be fine. So it's just like it's finding that differentiator for your first like couple dozen students.
I think this is the first time that Quaker was brought up on the show. If you don't mind me asking, like, being in Canada,
Yeah.
like, obviously it's hard to pull my eyes away from what goes on in the States, but I'm not sure exactly like how you characterize yourself as that. And I know this isn't too e-commerce related, but if you don't mind,
No
I'm
worries.
just
Yeah.
kind of interested in pulling this thread.
I mean, it's I guess, fringe Christian religion, more or less. It's one of the peace churches, so everyone is pacifism is one of the big tenets, and honestly, that's really about it. There aren't that many other rules. They were a lot more popular when there was a draft, and there was reasons for people to join to avoid the draft primarily.
Okay, fair enough. Because I mean, for those of us who maybe haven't heard that term before, we just think of like the oatmeal.
Yeah.
So we'll get back into more of some of the other insights into Teachable. I also found some stuff on, say, Instagram or on Twitter that I think would be fun to run past you. But we're going to put that aside, because what I want to talk to you about too is your own background and your experience in the educational system. Because I've talked to the other two guests who also had interesting insights to say about education. I'm curious about what were some of like the major things that stuck out to you throughout your going through school?
I feel like I was really bad at school. I was not. I liked learning a lot. I always read a lot, and I mean, I'm a self-taught programmer. I haven't taken any sort of comp sci courses. I was an econ major in college. Thought I wanted to be a banker at the time. Then talked to a bunch of bankers and realized I did not, and they did not want me to be a banker. So sort of took a different path there. I mean, generally, I don't know. I always found that I can learn best when it's applicable to something I'm doing. So like I'll take a programming course on like how to make a Rails application or something like that and get like 5 chapters in and then be like, all right, I think I can make my own application, and then go try to like port the lessons over, and found the sort of like I think that's one of the things I really like about like online education is you can jump around too, which is something I don't know often reinforcing to our customers is like, it doesn't, even if they didn't finish 100% of their course, like there's lots of courses that I've taken 30% of and gotten huge returns on investment out of the time I spent on it. But the sort of like self-directed stuff and being able to find a bunch of different perspectives on something, that's something I've always found a lot better outside of school. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really go to class in college, which was super dumb. I realized the moment I left, but have always primarily done more self-direct learning, either from like books or online courses and videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, same with me for the most part. I don't know. For me, elementary school and high school, there's some moments that stick out that are positive, but for the most part, it was a nightmare. Because I'm with people that some I get along with, but many of which I don't. And not only is there a lot of stuff that I can't retain, but there's also a lot of negative associations with some of the lessons that were being taught. Like I tend to like kind of like repel away from mathematics because I have some pretty bad memories associated with stuff that went on in mathematics class. For those of you in high school right now, if you can choose between applied and academic, just pick academic. It's going to be harder, but just do it. One of the things that goes on in the institutions, and this is kind of like a predictive question, so don't feel like you have to nail it or anything like that. But I'm just curious to hear what you have to say about it. Where there are a number of professions and vocations that are firmly rooted in the institution. You have, say, like engineering, you have medicine, you have a lot of degrees where those people, they have to go through that system because there's nowhere else where you can earn that kind of legitimacy. From maybe what you see on your end, are you seeing any possibility down the line that these professions will break free from these institutions and people can even start getting doctorates or engineering degrees and online courses?
I don't know. So I guess there's sort of two things you're buying when you're buying a degree from a university, or at least two. I'll caveat that. So I mean, one of them is sort of like access. Like if you want to be a surgeon, you need somewhere presumably where you can like cut bodies up and practice on them, and you probably shouldn't be doing that at home. Like sort
Yeah,
of
sir.
freelance surgery practice seems like kind of a bad call. Or even if you want to become a civil engineer, you probably don't have, I don't know, bridge parts at home, like whatever it is you need to sort of like practice building like large structures. I think. And then so there's sort of the access, like the actual learning you're getting, which may sort of require sort of hard to find or expensive things. And then there's sort of the credentialism, the like institutional credibility. So like I was a terrible student, but I went to Columbia and I benefited enormously from having an Ivy League degree. Like I don't know, probably would have been harder for me to switch over into engineering, even if I hadn't had that sort of like seal being like, this guy's probably kind of smart. He can like maybe switch over.
Mhm.
So I think there are places where that's probably more important, like maybe in law. I think there's a certain, or like even in sort of like hiring like big accounting or auditing firms, like a lot of what you want to do is you want to be like, we hired these credible people. Look, these other institutions think they're credible. If it all goes terribly, like no one got fired from buying IBM. Was like the old tech phrase. I think you do see a lot of that sort of dismantling in like software engineering, where you basically just need a computer, especially in like newer fields. Like I don't know, all of the sort of people I respect, or almost all the people I respect most in sort of application security and things like that, I don't think any of them have any formal training in it, just because the training programs are relatively new and it's like a fast moving field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for things where what you're actually able to do is what's most important, we will sort of continue to see it devolve. But like those are places where like the stamp is less important, because you can look at sort of the output, whether it's their projects they did at Harvard or their like test projects from a Udemy course and so forth. I'm optimistic long term. I think that like gatekeepers are pretty powerful. There's also, I guess, around sort of like medicine and law, it's effectively a cartel. Like they're also just limiting the supply.
Mhm.
There's like 12 new dermatologists a year in the United States or something like that. So dermatologists make an enormous amount of money. Maybe that's because skin is so hard that only 12 people can figure it out. But I suspect that like a lot of it is just sort of a industry group protecting their own supply. So like that's harder to deal with just by being better and free and online. Um, but I think we'll see the sort of valuation faster in some areas than others. But
Yeah, that is an important point. Like, I think by the time that a surgeon could potentially learn anything from the comfort of their own home, by that time the robots would probably have taken over anyways.
yeah, I guess there could
So
be like AR surgery rooms and so forth, or VR.
yeah, but even so, there's very little that you can do to fully replicate. I mean, the
Yeah.
a human cadaver, or I suppose it's not a cadaver if the surgeon is good at their job. So There's another thread too that, sorry, I was about to say threat. No, thread that also unraveled in my mind as you're describing. Because one of the other things too about education, this has always been like my major sticking point with, especially the institution. I get into more like, grade 9, K to 8, and high school, because I've been through those, where I think, especially for youngsters, the perception is I got to get through this and then I'm free, and then my learning is over, and now my life begins, and that's just not life. It's just not. Life and learning are two constants. Even me entering my 30s, I thought like the major chunk of my learning was over, and I'm dead wrong. It turns out that actually like most of my learning is now actually before me rather than behind me. So when you get into say like again with surgeons or with engineering, there are basically every industry, especially in IT, there's always new things to learn. So what I'm wondering is if maybe there's room for the continued part of it, where maybe they don't have to necessarily go back to university to continue working on new bodies, but there's ways to further their education once that base has been laid out.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for engineering, it's basically a requirement. I mean, we have our engineering team spend at least sort of like 10% of their time on kind of professional development stuff, like really even outside of like, you need to learn how this database works so you can build this new feature using this database, but just sort of more generic, staying abreast with the environment. I mean, I would say, especially, I don't know, other industries as well, especially for like computer science, the like universities are sort of spectacularly bad at that. Like they'll teach you sort of algorithms and data structures and things that have kind of stayed the same forever. But like until recently, most universities were teaching their intro courses in C, which was, a programming language that came out in like 1976 and like 1% of professional programmers use in their day-to-day jobs. Um, and I'm honestly a little bit skeptical that like those sort of foundational things are really that core to sort of day-to-day work. I don't feel like when I was, programming rather than managing professionally, I was like hitting tricky algorithms questions on a daily basis, though it was easy to have sort of, I guess, imposter syndrome early on of like, if only I'd gone to university for this, then I would just be like solving this problem immediately. But really, I think it's almost all about like the continuous learning. And I feel like that's broadening outside of like maybe it was there a little bit earlier in programming, but that's affecting like e-commerce is changing a lot too. Like most sort of business stuff, the pace of change seems to be accelerating.
Yeah, I say jokingly where some of these things they start to move at quantum speed, but I use that as a way to remind myself that every day I'm going to wake up, there are going to be a lot of significant changes in it, and so there's no reason for it not to. Things are moving at the speed of light. We have the internet, we have technology, we have all this stuff. It's fascinating, and it certainly gives everybody the opportunity to get as far ahead as they're capable of. I find as with the emergence of this online learning now, and with a lot of collaborative education too. One of the things I was going to ask you about is your GitHub page. So we'll switch briefly into that too. Is that once everyone's evolved in the industry, everyone is helping each other out. In the e-commerce space, that's totally how things are going. Everybody's got their YouTubes. Everybody wants to share the information. People are getting together on Facebook pages, and it seems like the industries where people are just trying to be protective and retain the information are few and far between now. There's as of this week so far, there's dermatology and river fishing or fly fishing, and those are the only two that I know about.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like it can often sort of day to day feel kind of exhausting, but I mean, I think it would be better than the alternative of there not being new things, and it's also like a nice. It means you're not screwed because you didn't go to the right school to learn the right things 10 years ago or like last year, because like that information's not going to be relevant in 3 years. Like there's sort of opportunities for new entrants all the time or new people getting into the space, which I think is great.
Yeah, and time is relative too. So there are different parts of the world. You go to where people are still living in like stone houses or yurts or stuff like that. If you don't want to move forward, there are places that are actually like vacuums where they just remain in like the 1800s, 1700s, or stuff like that. So yeah, I dug around a bit just to see what you've been up to, and I found your I went to your website, and it's hilariously efficient. I'll say it's one way to put it. Yeah,
very fast.
So I found your GitHub page, and I don't know anything about it, and we can't. There's only so far we can get into the technical side of it, but I still think it's cool to ask about, just in case anybody is like they've got their own programming edge and maybe they haven't heard of it or something like that. So can you tell me like what goes on there? Is it like an open sharing system where you're teaching each other coding practices or sharing templates? Like what is it all about?
Yeah, so I guess at its basic level, GitHub. So Git is I'll try to keep this really bare bones. Is sort of version control management system. It's for like tracking changes in code. Basically, it's a lot easier than doing it with like a Word document because you can break code up by line. So it's relatively easy to see like, oh, a new line was added. Whereas like, if you add another sentence to a paragraph, it would mess up all of the sort of later lines. So it started as kind of a place for just people to upload their code. It's sort of all open source by default, so you can search through millions or billions of repositories and see other people's code, which is often really useful for learning. If you're like trying to integrate with an obscure service, you can find the two other people that have ever integrated with that obscure service and like see how they did it. And over time, I guess it's kind of become more of a social network around it. So you can like star favorite different repositories to keep an eye on them. So I've been like looking at, I guess the most recent one I looked at was a thing to try to make sort of like clever requests to see whether or not an email is valid for like list building, where like start sending an email. And then as soon as they're like, yes, this is a real email address, it stops sending the email. And that way you don't have to like the email confirmation stuff. So it's kind of cool to figure out sort of new techniques and things around that. A lot of the sort of big open source projects are kind of built in the open. I guess they're all built in the open, but are like actively requesting new contributors. So it can be a really good way to break into the industry by they'll like flag there's sort of open source issue tracking for everything. So you can see something and be like, oh, I could add that. Maybe it's just a documentation improvement or like a small change to an existing feature, uh, which looks great on resumes. But I think overall it's just there's just so much code there that it's a great way to learn because you can go find 500 people who have tried 500 different ways of doing the thing you're trying to do, and like 40 of them will be like horrible and just the worst approach in like ways it didn't even occur to you that anybody could figure out. But then there'll probably be like 10 or 12 that are doing it in some like much more elegant way than you would have thought of on your own.
And so it's great too. So I can imagine in your position where you are working on something related to the website and you're stumped, and then you can head over into GitHub and you can see how other people, maybe everybody's stumped, and now it's time for everybody to work together to figure out a solution. Or somebody did find a solution, but they're not going to like immediately just take that and run with it. They need to analyze it and see what goes on there. You don't hear about this too often in programming, that there is a high degree of social element to it. We usually hear, not that most people are locked in the rooms now, but for the most part, us nerds, I'm a creative nerd, but I'm still spending like 95% of my time in my room even before quarantine.
Yeah, no, it can be very collaborative. So, I mean, I guess a concrete example is when we were starting Teachable, which uses kind of a similar backend architecture to Shopify, I spent tons of time just like reading all of the code that Shopify had made open source and public, especially around like their theming system, to try to figure out how we should build ours. And it was great because you can go back in time, so you can see what they started with, and then you can find the issue where somebody's like, this straight up doesn't work for category pages, and then you can like sort of see what their new architecture is and like hopefully avoid making all those mistakes yourself. And then you'll see like reference like Zendesk also uses a similar system, and there's some like communication back and forth there where like you'll see sort of people who work at Zendesk or people who build themes for Zendesk and people who build themes for Shopify like talking to each other in the comments and being like, oh, this approach loads twice as fast or what have you.
I'll ask you one more question about it, and then we'll switch back into some other stuff about Teachable. But I'm so sorry, I can't believe I'm asking this. But do things ever get like clicky, or does the social side of it ever start to like actually affect the work?
I haven't seen it within companies. It definitely can in sort of like big open source projects. So like Ruby used to have, I think there's some acronym for it, but it's like we are nice because Mats, who is the creator of Ruby, is nice, which sort of got like embedded really heavily everywhere to try to be more like open and welcoming. Other sort of lower level languages, a lot of stuff around like Linux has a reputation for being very clicky. Though they're working on that, where like if you don't get stuff in exactly the right number of spaces before everything, like Linus Torvalds, the guy who made Linux, will like send you a 500-word email about how your code is bad and you should feel bad. But I think generally, like there's been a big push for sort of codes of conduct and stuff like that, which has helped a lot. Though there's some distinguishing between like somebody just posting clearly being like, please do my homework assignment for me, or like you want to be terse,
Right. Yeah.
versus like someone who is acting in good faith but maybe just doesn't know the norms of the community.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of that has to do with, I mean, you always get people who come in, they don't know any better, but depending on the legacy of that platform, the more like unrefined it is, or the less knowledgeable people are about it, the less popular it is, the more likely someone's going to come in and try to game the system. I'll tell you a quick story. So I was for a little while trying to like market myself as a writer on Fiverr, and this one person put out this assignment where I want to do a children's book about becoming a doctor. And so I write this like very brief. So Timmy stands up and says, "I want to be a doctor because I want to help people, and I can go off into many different ways of helping people depending on what I'm good at." The guy gets back to me and says, "No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted." Timmy stands up and says, "I want to be a doctor," and then he lists what was clearly his assignment, where like you break down what is like. It's been a while, so I don't remember the details of it. But anybody who reads that and goes, "Okay, this guy is like in high school or university or something like that," and he's just trying to like pawn off his homework onto me.
Yeah, you see a lot of that on the Stack Overflow sort of companion site to GitHub of Q&A from programmers, which is a big reputation for that. You see a big like burst of terrible questions every September as people start school and so forth.
Okay, yeah, yeah. All right, so let's switch back to Teachable because there's some other insights into it that I'm really curious about. So this one's from the Instagram. It says in 2020, two creators made over $10 million. That's pretty good. 56 making over 1 million, also pretty good. Maybe I should have said something better than pretty good because, well, 823 made over 100,000, which is also pretty darn good. On your end, I'm wondering like what level of data collection aggregation falls onto your plate. So hopefully we can get some insights from you on this. Yeah, do you have any insights on hand as to like who made like the $10 million mark and who are doing the most well right now, and well, what why they're doing it so well?
Uh, I don't know if I can share sort of like exactly the names of who the different people are.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
think
Yeah, that's
there's
fine.
sort of one around investments. One of the sort of perennial top sellers is it's not feng shui, but it's similar enough. It's Chinese metaphysics that I don't know the distinction, which is not what I would have suspected would be like a top seller. Usually, I think of the things that were like, at least a lot of our sort of initial courses were primarily things where people would be like, "Oh, I see how I can buy this course for $100 and use it to make 100 times $10 in my personal life, either by like learning this new skill or like developing this business thing and so forth." So it's been interesting to see the sort of more, I guess, lifestyle ones. I mean, maybe people are buying metaphysics for that reason. I don't know. But like the sort of yoga and classes like that rise to the top. I mean, generally they are people with sort of strong personal followings. They usually, it's very rare. I mean, some of the people in the 100,000 category fit this, but for the like million and 10 million, courses are definitely not the only thing they do. They either have a like popular blog or following
Right.
outside of that, or sometimes they are converting in-person stuff into online courses, and we saw a lot of that this year for obvious reasons.
Have you seen any? And I feel like the more questions I ask, the more likely we'll be able to figure out who these people are. So congratulations to anybody who does that. But have you seen any distinction between the free content that people at this scale are putting out versus the content that they're teaching? Like how they're funneling, say, people on their YouTube channel. What is it they're giving there that funnels people into a paid program?
Yeah, they generally do I mean, it can be sort of hard to do sort of like cause and effect because they're successful, so they have a lot more sales. But generally, they tend to be a lot better at sort of repackaging content in different ways, so they won't just sell one course. One thing we've seen sort of a lot of people having success with over the last couple of years is sort of like cohort-based things. So they will effectively just like re-release the course with the same content once a month, but gather like the 50 or 100 people who sign up then into a cohort and do sort of like discussion items and sections about them. It's sort of just a way to scale yourself. Some people sort of go the other approach and they just charge really high price points, so they'll charge like 4 grand to have a bunch of one-on-one time with them. But if you can charge like a couple $100, so still not super cheap, like a lot more expensive than you would have on a Udemy, and then offer sort of access to other people going through the cohort. A lot of people have had a lot of success with that. Other than that, yeah, I mean, the repackaging snippets of the courses to YouTube and Instagram and so forth is probably not a revelation to the audience, but does work very well. Also, the sort of the free course lead-ins. So you do kind of a mini course with a couple hours of content tops, and then use that as a way to like build trust and then sell them the sort of more detailed, more comprehensive thing later on. Often one thing people will get, which they're like kind of surprised by there, is they'll get a lot of referrals out of the free section and getting people that didn't even necessarily take the free course um, buying the paid one because their friend took the free course and mentioned it to them and was like, oh, you're learning something about email marketing. I know this really good guy about email marketing. And like maybe the free course covers everything with or like the eventual purchaser already knows everything in the free course, but they're getting that like word of mouth support and like, yeah, I guess endorsement from someone they know, which is what really tends to move the needle. And usually there's like multiple touch points before the purchase. Like they're seeing a YouTube video they like, and then they're following you on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, he says smart things there too," and so forth. It's not just a like saw one content download and then converted. At least not over a longer time frame.
Can we also touch on the social element on both the students and the creator side? So like how students are connecting with each other, and then also how the creators are connecting with each other. I know you mentioned the cohort, so the thread's already been open a bit, but I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, so I guess we run a Teachable HQ sort of community internally, and also which is just for anyone who's a paying customer of Teachable can find and talk to each other there, and we'll do sort of 30-day challenges and 60-day challenges with like different steps and milestones because it's a lot of work to create a course. So like one thing is just trying to get people to like follow through for that like 40 to 100 hours before they really have something to sell, and like do things to sort of test, validate the market like before they put in that 100 hours, hopefully. I guess similarly on the instructor side, we're using a new company called Circle for that. Tighter integrations with Teachable coming soon, which provides just sort of a like private forum for customers of your course and things like that. But really, I don't know. I've sometimes kind of like roll my eyes at it, but like if you feel like you're part of something, you're a much better customer. Like having that community feeling like you're not alone is a big part of it, and also even just in learning things. Like one reason it's hard to be a self-taught programmer is because you don't have anybody telling you that your problems are normal when you're learning a new thing, and like that's really helpful. So like having people who are also going through the same learning things, and you can be like, oh, okay, everybody gets really stuck at this section. Like setting up domains is hard, and that just reassures you that you're like not dumb and can achieve this. In addition to like somebody actually being able to like help you with your specific issue, just the like not feeling alone is big. Maybe even more so in like COVID pandemic days.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to connect 30 like-minded people together, have a university professor with a brutal grading curve, and so everybody.
Yeah, it does work pretty well.
Yo, you got a 61, bro. Yo, this guy's a genius. Telling you.
Yeah, I don't know if any of our instructors have tried just grading really hard and seeing if that fosters community, but maybe I should suggest it to some.
I think if they have the archetype for it, because there's like those whiplash teachers that are like to the point where they're the antagonist, and you want to like overcome the antagonism. Just don't do it the way it happened in the movie. Spoiler. So another thing I'm wondering too. So actually, I should ask this: how long Teachable has been around for? Before I ask this next question, it's important that I need to know.
Yeah. I guess we technically started in like November of 2013. The founder made the original version out of frustration teaching on Udemy, and emailed a bunch of their top instructors and got 10 of the top 20 to join. It became a real company in sort of May of 2014 when I joined, I guess. Moved out of side project stage.
Actually, before I asked that question, I remembered what I just drawn. This is why I have to chronically like write things down, because the more threads that open up. So the other thing too, I wanted to say before we move on about self-taught, because I self-taught editing, and the thing that worried me, especially for the first like 2 or 3 years, part of it was imposter syndrome, which by the way you mentioned earlier, and we will get to that because I do want to talk about that. But it was that the solutions that I had were abysmal solutions, and what I noticed was the longer I went on, the more afraid I was to find out I was wrong, because that would mean that as time I made more mistakes that could have been corrected. And then also the other thing that scared me too is the idea that the solution was beyond me. Like there's certain magical techniques that one can only learn if they go to engineering school. It's why, like, as an act of humility, anytime we go to our podcast conferences, I always will look for like a podcasting 101 course, just in case there's like some foundational building block that I never had, and it's just going to completely reshape how I continue to do it. Now, mind you, I'm not doing too much editing these days, just because I moved on to hosting and being the voice. But I still enjoy it. As a gamer, I love like looking for those little details and like cutting things out. It's still a lot of fun. All right, so back to the question. there's an answer to this question that's probably going to be pretty straightforward, which is like the changes once the lockdown hit, and now there's going to be changes in activity. So we can touch on that, but I wanted to look more in aggregate of like, have you seen any significant changes or milestones or trends in what people were looking into, what creators were popular at certain different times, like what was going on in 2015 that everybody seems to be looking into?
Yeah, so I guess I mean, so on a longer time frame, we've seen. I guess it's just kind of the idea of taking courses online has gotten broader acceptance. So originally it was kind of there was a lot of like very technical courses like how to code, how to make websites, things, which I guess makes sense. You would learn on a website, and then sort of small business things like drop shipping and stuff like that, or like options trading and other things that like kind of sketched me out, to be honest, and was like not thrilled with. And really, I mean, over time we've seen that broaden a lot to things like the miniature goat doctors, copper deficiency people. I don't think are like on the bleeding edge of technological adoption in general. So we've seen it sort of like broadening into more industries. There's been a lot more sort of fitness things have come on that. I mean, that obviously had a big
Mm-hmm.
spike with COVID, along with things like cooking classes and stuff like that. I mean, that was really the big change we saw in June. Was like clearly a lot of sort of in-person courses, like things that were in-person workshops, like kind of rapidly moving online. So like our average time to first sale dropped like 80% because people were moving sort of existing businesses onto the platform rather than creating the business and signing up for Teachable at the same time. One thing that I thought was interesting is even as sort of things open back up again, most of those people seem to be at least keeping online as a component. Uh, like I don't know if they would have switched over if there wasn't the forcing function, but now even if they're going back to doing in-person cooking classes and so forth too, they are still keeping kind of an online thing. Just the you know getting paid for a course you made 3 months ago when you didn't do any incremental work is a fantastic addictive feeling that's kind of hard to put down again. I think once you've had it once, like waking up and discovering you made money while you sleep is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, because scaling is like one of the key terms that we're always brought up, and it manifests in different ways. And one of them is a lot of the people that I've noticed, or sorry, like a lot of the drop shippers and a lot of the e-commerce experts, they tend to get weary of the one-on-one coaching unless they're charging like an exuberant amount of money. They want to know that what they're doing always has more of like an exponential return on it. If I'm going to put this amount of energy teaching one person, it's going to cost them a lot of money to make up for the potential amount of money I can make if I just put a lesson out and it's disseminated and it reaches 20, 50 people.
Yeah, I think that the one-on-one stuff works really well, especially early on, because it both like gets you people to endorse your course or educational thing later. Like this guy knows what he's talking
True.
about. He helped me a lot, and it helps you like identify common patterns of like, okay, I talked to 10 people, 8 of them had this problem. Like this is absolutely going in the course and like probably in bold. But once you've done like 200, I can see that getting kind of tedious of just sort of helping people with the like same things over and over again.
That's a really good point too. If you start with one-on-ones and teaching people and lower scale, it gives people an opportunity to identify how they do it and then how they would magnify that. I mean, it's a thought that's like come and gone, but it's important for you to. It's important to have been reiterated. So yeah, I'm taking that one to the bank. Overall, like, have you guys, I mean, because I know there's a podcast, I know there's a blog, so there's probably some answers to this, but has your company identified some like the key do's and don'ts for what creators can do to, or what the creators should be avoiding? I know, we don't want to dwell too much on negativity, but I do love hearing like what are some of the major screw ups that people have encountered.
Yeah, I mean, a really big one that we kind of hammer all the time, and I'm sure gets brought up a lot here, is like charge a lot or probably charge more than you're expecting.
Mhm.
It's a lot easier to lower prices than raise prices, but also like your $5 price point customers are going to suck as a rule. Like we get most of our tickets from people like they require the most hand holding. Often they'll have the highest expectations. Uh, like starting at like a 70 or $100 price point for a course will often result in like not just because you have 1/20th the customers that you would if you charge $5, but even on like a per customer basis, a lot less work. Sometimes it's just because people expect things to be like handed to them if they're coming in really cheap. Other than that, I would say like going broad too early, like basics of yoga is like a pretty well trod space. There's lots of YouTube
Mhm.
videos on it. I mean, if you have some differentiator that people want to learn from you specifically, sure, but like doing yoga for like I don't know, injured cyclists or something like that. Like find like you can go start
Hmm.
very narrow and then go broad. Like you want to, I don't know, there's some famous quote that I think was given to Airbnb when they were really starting is like you want 100 people who love you, not like a million people who think you're kind of neat. And I think that holds like that's true for
Hmm.
startups. But I think that also holds really well for courses. Like early on, you want people who are gonna like go tell their friends, "You won't believe this cool stuff I learned from Noah in his course," and who will tell you the stuff that's confusing rather than people who are like somewhat interested. So like either something with a pressing problem people want to solve, or something like very specific. So you can make sure that's super tailored, and then you can make 10 more courses that are more generic afterwards. But like starting with that narrow focus tends to work a lot better.
You use yourself as an example there. Do you have any
I do
courses?
not right now. Yeah.
Okay, this is hypothetical. Is it a conflict of interest?
No, I think people would be. I mean, I have courses where I've tested out all of our features. I don't think it would be encouraged. The company would be thrilled if I was making courses for sure.
Okay, I
I
got you.
have sold ebooks and so forth in the distant past. That was kind of my start in online businesses 10 or 12 years ago or 15 years ago now.
Oh wow, so you've been in the space for some time. So it blows my mind, like some of the people, especially in the dropshipping side, where they've become masters at their craft. And I'm like, well, have you been in this for like 10 years? And kids are like, no, I've been like 3 years. I got my own house. I'm like, I love them to death. And like we established earlier on, it's gotten to the point now where anyone can make their money if they're motivated to it. So it comes down to they knew what they were doing, they knew what they wanted, they went for it. And I suppose they didn't have a kid yet of their own, so that does that probably helps out too.
It's not hard. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're closing in on like the final 10 minutes of this recording. So we're gonna like decompress into some mindset stuff. Because you said earlier on about you briefly said imposter syndrome, and I also know that like it's brought up on say the Instagram. So to my recollection, and my listeners will have to forgive me, my recollection does not scale very well, but how would you characterize imposter syndrome? I bet most people experience it, but they maybe didn't hear the term for it.
I mean, it's feeling like you're an imposter. So like feeling like everyone else in your space or doing this thing you're trying to do, like knows what's going on, is like much more capable, has like a better handle on it, and you're just kind of faking it until you make it. Is sort of the feeling I would say I
Mhm.
characterize most with it. So like for our creators, it's often like I'm not an expert is a big thing that like people have to get over, or like have to accept that like almost everyone is an expert to someone else in certain fields. Like you don't have to know that much more. Probably there's no like National Academy of Copper Deficiency and Miniature Goat people who's like rewarding it and so forth. Like it's not really a title
Mhm.
necessarily that other people put on you. For myself personally, I mean, it was a lot around programming. I'm relatively young. I started being a CTO when I was 24 or something like that. So it's been a while being like real vague about my age with employees, and then realizing that they were also being real vague about their age because we were both very young,
Yep.
and not having the sort of like formal comp sci education. So I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's an easy trap to fall into. Is you like you blame yourself. You're just like, well, I'm just faking it. So of course I don't know this. Like I can never be good at podcast editing or programming
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
I'm not cut out for it. And I don't know. Over time, you realize that everybody's winging it more or less to some degree.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying earlier too, right? How about like the longer I would go on, the more scared I was to learn the lessons that might even cost me it. For me, the thing that helped turn it around was this one client. He got us together to do a test episode, and the host was so nervous she got drunk, and so I had to take her drunken track and make her sound not drunk, and I did. And he sends me back word for word, duck, comma, you're good. And I took that and I put that on my website as like one of my actual testimonials. And since that point, it still happens, but that went a long way, I'll say. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I've always been okay with like telling people how old I am. I'm 31. I know I said that before. I think for me, I feel like I'm doing people a favor when I say that, because a lot of the people that I've connected with, especially through this show, they are in their 20s. I guess part of it is I wanted to let people know it's not too late. 30s, not that bad. 30s are like your 20s as long as you're willing to course correct. So they can still be really good, but you also don't have the same luxuries that you did when you're in your energized 20s.
Yeah, I think a big part of it for me is just it's like not essentializing it. Like I make stupid mistakes all the time. I have like embarrassing holes in my knowledge, but like that's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm a faker overall. Everybody has holes in their knowledge, and I've weird depth of expertise in places other people don't, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And and these days for people who are like, they want to observe a community and like absorb knowledge, but they don't necessarily want to also contribute. Facebook groups are a great place to start. There's a couple of like different podcast editing groups that I'm a part of, and then it's kind of like what with you and GitHub is that if I'm keen on understanding something, I don't even have to ask the question. All I have to do is search for that term, and there are other conversations that other people have had. So
I remember vividly reading like Toby, the CEO of Shopify, who was still active committing code in 2013, 2014, which is impressive to me. Like just reading discussions of him with other people about why they took some approach and being like, I never would have thought of that, but was super valuable for my like development. And even just seeing like how people in those groups like handle disagreements and differences of opinion and so forth can be super useful, because often there's not a right way.
yeah, that's fair too, especially because, well, I mean, emotionality can significantly impact quality of work. Like if people don't resolve something, and then it just festers and it becomes a seed, then it grows, and the next thing you know, website crashes, or in my case, I accidentally uploaded a different show onto somebody else's platform. It was scheduled, so it wasn't released. But that was like the most absurd mistake I've ever made in my life. So
yeah, like a year ago, I got asked to take down a video from one school, and instead I accidentally made that every video on the platform. Which just seemed like a very passive-aggressive response to the customer of like, oh, you want this down? All right, what if it's everything?
I didn't know that can happen. Although there was the closest thing I think I've ever seen something like that happen, where every video in a community was renamed to one title. It was like this. It was from Smash Brothers, where every single video was this one fight, and those guys became notorious for it, even though they had nothing to do with it. So one of the things I had to encourage my new digital producer is that, don't be afraid to make mistakes, but do be afraid to make boring mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You might as well make hilarious ones that you can look back on and laugh about.
Yeah, we've started building a list early on of stupid things we've done that no one has been fired for, which I think has been good for sort of encouraging people later on. And it's a nice thing to think about when you make one of the stupid mistakes. It's like, one for the list.
Would you care to share one more with us before we move on to the next question?
So I guess when we first launched the new system, for like 3 or 4 hours, we would tell people the right amount of money that we were going to charge you if you're using PayPal, but then we would just charge you $1 no matter what. We just like hard coded in a test value. I mean, we were pretty small then, so it wasn't a huge order value overall, but still a fairly embarrassing mistake.
Oh yeah, some people got good returns on that. I assume that they paid for it. He's like, all right,
we paid out we made all the creators whole. Some people got a phenomenal deal on whatever courses they were buying on launch day unexpectedly.
I was looking at your YouTube before we got on, like maybe like an hour or two before we got to recording, and this is like brand new. It's like the creator's mind fear. I know this is more like on the front end side, and you're a CTO, but the first person from Teachable we're talking to. So can you speak to what's what this is about and what it's trying to achieve for people?
I mean, I think this kind of goes back to the imposter syndrome thing. It's just it's pretty sure I saw this one like a week ago. This is like, it's got sort of creators talking about places where they felt scared, but then also kind of on the student side, like you were both like, it's both natural to be afraid when you're like putting yourself out there as an expert or really any content into the world, because people may make fun of you, and that sucks and that's scary, but that's like normal and everyone feels it. And then you're also like, by teaching that, hopefully you're helping other people like minimize their own fears and get through that. I mean, really, we've discovered, in addition to just like chunk of actual work that is creating a course, like so much of it is the psychological aspect of like convincing yourself you can do this and you have things of value to offer the world. Knowledge.
Yeah. It's a whole thing to unravel, and like where teasing and making fun of people fits into society in a healthy way. And for me, I tend to look at it as like a drug, because it is a chemical manipulation. One person manipulates another person's chemicals for a gain. And we can even make fun of ourselves too, right? We're dealing with our own chemicals. To me, I put it in the same camp as like smoking a cigarette or having a soda or coffee, in moderation or in a way that's healthy. It could be good. It could be a nice release. And people go to comedy clubs to get that catharsis. And so it can be very helpful. But like with all drugs, it can become addictive. People can become dependent on it, and they can harm themselves in the long run and not realize it, because the harm isn't in that moment. Like one cigarette doesn't harm you. You get, you smoke tens of thousands of them over the course of your life. Good luck. I got one more question for you. Another just like fun mindset one, and then we're gonna get you on out of here. So this is another one from the Instagram. It's, forgive me, my pronunciation. I will try, but maybe I will succeed, maybe I won't. It's a ikegai. It's going to be hard to like characterize. So for people, look it up. It's 4 circles, and they're Venn diagramming each other. And in each one, there's a title. There's passion, there's purpose, there's vocation, there's profession. And then connecting each of those one to one are what we love, what we're good at, what we can be paid for, and what the world needs. And so it's the ikegai is finding that sweet spot between all of these. Now, I thought about it before I came on, and podcasting pretty much nailed all of it. I will say that, like, as far as passion is concerned, I do have a deeper passion for other things, things that start with Z and end in Elda, but it was about the sweet spot.
Fair enough.
So it fit all 4 of those better than anything else I can think of. And I'm just curious if you've had a chance to kind of consider that for yourself, and where do you think your ikegai is?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my more narrow one would probably be programming. I genuinely really enjoy it. I find it a lot of fun, but then the sort of broader one is, I guess, helping people, which is in kind of the intersection of those two. With Teachable, I was at a fintech company that does not need to be named, pre-Teachable, and I spent most of my time just making forms where you stated that you had at least $10 million so that you were allowed to use the website. And I don't know, I couldn't get really that excited about helping those people, but being able to help sort of like everyday people, especially like leave jobs they hate and teach things they're passionate about, is what like motivates me to get going every day. And making websites is cool.
Yeah, and what was it? The copper goat doctors. You brought them up a couple of times. That is a class, right? You were just pulling that out of
a real class,
yeah. It can be a lot more fulfilling to know that that those people who they're not exactly like serviced by very many industries, to know that they have something that can give them a huge boost and to help other people who may not discover it's niche, but someone's going to fit into it. So yeah. All right, Noah. So that's all we're going to do today. I'm really grateful for your time. Our wrap up question is always the same. It's, if you have any final words of wisdom, perhaps an answer to a question I didn't ask, I welcome you to share it, and then let people know what they should do to get engaged in Teachable, and if they want to reach out to you if you're so inclined. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of touched on it on the imposter syndrome stuff, but really just, I would say, go for it. Everybody's winging it. Nobody really has that much confidence that what they're doing is going to work out. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I'm Noah Pryor. I think my email's on my website, but it's noah@noahpryor.com. For Teachable, there's a free trial. Feel free to sign up on the teachable.com, or if you have specific questions, also feel free to email me and I'll answer them or direct you to somebody who can give a better answer if I don't know.
All right. Terrific. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us on our completely unintentional education week. It's been a blast. There's a lot of opportunities that have been opened up here and a lot of things to think about. So I know that a lot of the people that I've talked to, they're also teaching too. And so it's not going to take very long for you, the listener, to get into a position where you can teach something, because chances are you probably could and you probably should. So with that, thank you once again, and we will check in soon. Thanks for listening. You might have found this show on any number of platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, or right here on Debutify. Whatever the case, if you enjoyed this content and want to help us thrive, please take a few moments to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you think is best. We also want to hear from you, so whether you think you'd be a good guest or want to weigh in on anything related to our show, you can email podcast@debutify.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Finally, this podcast is created by the passionate team at Debutify. If you're ready to take the plunge into e-commerce or are looking to up your game, head over to debutify.com and see how it can change your life and the lives of many through what you do next.